680's Chris McCusker joins us now. So, Chris, the U.S. made an interest rate announcement. How did that impact the markets?
Well, markets were modestly higher ahead of the announcement, and then after the announcement, and as the Fed chair spoke at his news conference, they started to tick lower, and markets finished in the red on both sides of the border. Now, I'm told that markets were expecting the interest rate increase. The problem, though, was that we did hear from the Fed chair that there could be 2 interest rate hikes in 2019 instead of 3 or potentially none, which was the expectation for next year, depending on which camp you're in. And that sort of slowdown in the interest rate hikes comes because of this slowing global growth. Now, Jerome Powell, who is the Fed chair, insists that today's hike will not affect growth, but global growth nonetheless is slowing. One analyst says the Fed is basically speaking out both sides of its mouth, and that's creating some uncertainty. And the hike as well did come today, even after the U.S. president basically asked the Fed not to do it. I'm told by an analyst I spoke to that it was warranted, it makes sense, and yeah, that's where we're at today.
What about gas prices and inflation over here on this side of the border?
Yeah, very interesting reading from StatsCan. The latest inflation data did show the annual pace of inflation slowed in November to 1.7% as upward pressure from higher gas prices eased off. And of course, oil prices have slipped further in the month of December. So we could see this again in the next inflation report. StatsCan also said that the weakest year-over-year pace of inflation since January of 2018, in a reading that was far more sluggish than October's level of 2.4%. Many experts say the inflation results reinforce predictions the Bank of Canada will be in no rush to raise its benchmark interest rate at the next policy announcement, which comes up on January the 9th. I actually checked this. Bloomberg pricing in a 1% chance of an interest rate hike in January, and then a 14% chance in March.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So makes me smile, but if I had to frown and I had some frown lines, maybe you could visit Shoppers Drug Mart. Now, is it really true that they're planning to offer Botox and other cosmetic procedures?
Yes, they are going to do this as sort of a pilot project at 2 of its stores. The first store will open on Saturday in Oakville. The second at Shops at Don Mills early next year. And yes, they are going to offer all sorts of cosmetic treatments, including Botox wrinkle reduction. So it seems that Shoppers is looking to cash in on the rising popularity of dermatology treatments. Now, just to give you the other side, nurse practitioners will administer the treatments. No doctors will be on site. And many in the medical field will say there are some risks associated with procedures like this, and a doctor should be supervising. The owner of Shoppers Drug Mart shares in Loblaw a little bit higher today.
Just for the record, this is au naturel, Chris.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, just in time for all those holiday posts. It sounds like Facebook is in hot water again for giving out user data.
Yes, and there were actually a couple of developments on Facebook today. A lawsuit has been filed by the District of Columbia's Attorney General over the Cambridge Analytica scandal. This is believed to be the first lawsuit around that scandal. As well, a report in the New York Times says the social media company allowed 150 companies to access private messages between users. Now, RBC, one of the companies named in the report, does deny it. And then late today, there might be some eyebrows over at the FTC, that is the Federal Trade Commission in the U.S. They might be rising on this new report, saying that if the New York Times report is true, Facebook might have violated a 2011 consent agreement between Facebook and the FTC. That's according to officials who spoke to CNN. So probably not surprising. Shares in Facebook today down 7.2%. It's been a rough year for this stock, off by 24%.
And that's just going to keep developing. Thank you, Chris.
Yes. Have a good night.
We'll see you soon.